guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex and today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about something that I recently found out about for myself. If you have had premenstrual spotting and you are having trouble getting pregnant, even if you're not, I just wanted to talk a little bit about premenstrual spotting and put this information out there because I personally, it took me so long to get an answer about this. And I just want to put this out there so that if you are going through the same and you are trying to figure out why you're having premenstrual spotting, maybe this video can point you in the right direction. So starting in about 2018, I started having premenstrual spotting. This is around the time when I went through bedbug fumigation in my apartment in New York City. I also then shortly thereafter moved into an apartment with a lot of mold in the building. And then I also started taking a medication called spironolactone. And one of the potential side effects of spironolactone is premenstrual spotting. And so since my dermatologist told me that that was a potential side effect of this drug that I was taking for acne, I didn't think anything of it when the premenstrual spotting started happening. Fast forward to about 2020, I started to wean myself off of spironolactone because I knew that I was going to want to start trying for a baby fairly soon. So this was about the end of 2020, I think, that I started weaning myself off of spironolactone. And a year later, the spotting still had not gone away. And I asked my gynecologist, what's going on? Why do I have this spotting? Is this normal since I stopped taking it a year ago? And he looked at me and he was like, no, that's not normal. He scheduled me for a couple of ultrasounds. So if you have premenstrual spotting, it is important to rule out other potential causes, like fibroids is one of them. There are some other things that you want to get checked out. The first thing that your doctor is probably going to do is they are probably going to do an ultrasound to make sure there are no fibroids or anything that's causing the bleeding, or cysts. Cysts can also cause premenstrual spotting. And so I didn't have any of those. And so time went on and he was like, okay, so once we got the results back from those ultrasounds, he was like, okay, well, you can either get pregnant or you can go on birth control. That'll take care of the premenstrual spotting. And since we were wanting to try for a baby soon, or maybe at that point we already were, I was like, okay, well, whatever. So I just basically went on with my life for a while until we went and we did some more extensive fertility testing. And then, so that's when I found out that my ovarian reserve was really low. Before you freak out, that's not what's causing my premenstrual spotting. I haven't gotten to that part of the story yet. And just because you have premenstrual spotting does not mean you have a low ovarian reserve. And not everyone with a low ovarian reserve has premenstrual spotting. To continue on, I found out that I had a low ovarian reserve, and I thought at that point that that was what was causing my premenstrual spotting. Nobody ever said anything otherwise, and so I went on for a long time thinking that that's what it was. And so I did all my lifestyle and diet changes, and it regulated my period. It made my ovarian function much better. And at that time, I got diagnosed with POI and low ovarian reserve, low AMH, or ovarian dysfunction. So I made all of these diet and lifestyle changes, but I was still having the premenstrual spotting, and I still wasn't getting pregnant. So at one point, I started going to see a natural functional medicine doctor. She was okay, and she actually noted that my spotting might be helped by progesterone, and she gave me a little liquid, like in a little tincture bottle, that I was supposed to take like a few drops every day, but it did absolutely nothing for me. And so after going to her for about 6 months, I decided to stop because I didn't really feel like I was getting any better. She put me on a protocol to take care of H. pylori, but I also had SIBO and she didn't really know how to treat that. So I ended up moving on to a different functional medicine doctor and started working with them. And they put me on a very comprehensive, very intense gut protocol to get rid of SIBO, to address all of the intestinal infections. And meanwhile, I was going to them, I was also seeing a NAPRO doctor. NAPRO is a natural procreative technology doctor. They're essentially Catholic doctors that rely on natural procreative technologies in order to help their patients to get pregnant or to just deal with women's health in general. They are Catholics. They don't believe in like IVF. They don't believe in birth control, and I reserve my judgment on anybody's religious beliefs. I think it's absurd that I had to go to a religious doctor to get a diagnosis, because I believe that what they do should be standard practice, just like with the added benefit of birth control and reproductive technologies. I don't judge anyone's religious beliefs. I believe that everyone should have the freedom to believe whatever they want. I just think that it's ridiculous that I had to go to this kind of a doctor in order to get a diagnosis about this, because low progesterone, which was my cause of premenstrual spotting, can cause premenstrual spotting. It can also prevent pregnancy. Low progesterone can be part of something called a luteal phase defect that is not necessarily part of POI or ovarian dysfunction. So going to a NAPRO doctor allowed me to learn a system of charting my cycle and to recognize patterns in my cycle. And when you go to a NAPRO doctor, they pair you with someone who teaches you how to chart your cycle in their charting system. And you basically learn about different kinds of potential issues with fertility and different women's health issues. And you learn the symptoms of those things and you learn how to chart your cycle. It's really amazing. It's a beautiful system. And I think that every woman should know how to do this because it's so extraordinarily helpful to know exactly when your fertile window is, to know your body so well from this charting system. And the only ones who will teach you how to do it are these NAPRO, I can't remember exactly what they call the people who teach you how to do the charting system, but they're the only ones who will teach you how to do it. So I think that's kind of a bummer because it doesn't allow everyone to have access to this, but it did teach me a whole lot about my body. And we realized that I had low progesterone because when you have premenstrual spotting that's connected with your period that is over 3 days long, three to 3+ days long, it's most likely that you have low progesterone. Now, I am not a doctor and I am not diagnosing you. And again, there are many other things that can cause premenstrual spotting, but low progesterone is one of those things. And it was never flagged by any of my other doctors because my progesterone levels always fell in normal range because they showed that I ovulated. They were at the low end of normal range, but they were in normal range. But for my body, it was not enough progesterone because I had the premenstrual spotting. So basically what the premenstrual spotting is that my endometrial lining was beginning to break down before my period. And no one ever told me until I went to these NAPRO doctors that can pretty much prevent pregnancy. So if your endometrial lining is breaking down before implantation can even happen, then it's pretty much preventing pregnancy. So I learned about this and then I continued on my life. I stopped seeing the NAPRO doctor just because it was too much with the NAPRO and my new functional medicine doctor, and I'm much more into the functional medicine side of things. If you have been around my channel for a while, you'll know that. And I wanted to try and make it so that my body was healthy enough to produce its own progesterone before I started supplementing with progesterone. At that point in time, I was not crazy about the idea of taking progesterone. So I did this gut protocol, and immediately after I did that gut protocol, during it, my ovarian function was a mess. But because of the POI, the ovarian dysfunction that I have, not because of the low progesterone, my cycle was a mess while I was going through the gut healing protocol. I was really sick. My ovaries were really struggling to function and I wasn't really ovulating for like a couple months. Or if I was, it was like my cycle was all over the place. But as soon as I finished that protocol and my gut health like really came into its own and I started feeling really amazing and my gut was like healthier than it's ever been in my life, I had a progesterone value of 17, which is the highest I've ever seen it since I've ever checked it. Not that I've been checking it all throughout my life, but since I've been in the fertility space and trying to get pregnant, I have had it checked. And also since I have been diagnosed with this ovarian dysfunction, I also have been checking it, and that's the highest value I've ever seen. This 17 like nanograms over, I'll check it and put it on the screen. I can't remember the measurement, but it's the US measurement. But anyway, shortly after that, I then got adipose PRP done on my ovaries. So it's a stem cell procedure where they take stem cells from your own fat cells and they mix that with a platelet-rich plasma from your blood, and then they inject that into your ovaries to try and wake them up and get them to function normally. So mine have always functioned. They've never shut down completely, but they don't function normally. So I recruit less follicles. Usually my hormone levels, like usually my estrogen is fine, but sometimes it's low, like especially on a month where my ovaries can be struggling. So after I got the adipose PRP done, my ovaries were sort of in shock for a few months. They were like trying to ovulate, but then not. And I had a couple of long cycles and then a short one. And since I got the adipose PRP done, my cycles have been a little bit wonky. Like I've been recruiting really early in my cycle, which has not been ideal. Sorry about my dog. My dog is snoring back here. Welcome to my channel with my snoring co-star. Before the adipose PRP, I would sometimes recruit follicles really early in my cycle, but after the adipose PRP, it sort of exacerbated it. And that is another side effect of having low progesterone, is that your body will start recruiting late in the last cycle to compensate for the lower progesterone levels, and that'll make you ovulate earlier in your next cycle. So that was happening to me a little bit before, but it's been sort of exaggerated by the adipose PRP. I have seen some like improvements in my estrogen levels. My estrogen, I had a really great estrogen level, and then follicle count was slightly better after adipose PRP. But I only recently just started taking progesterone because through all of this, I'm still trying to get pregnant, and I feel confident that one day my body is going to be in a state where it can produce enough of its own progesterone. But in the meantime, I've had to go through lots of difficult interventions in order to try and get pregnant, and that's just been a lot of stress on my body. Like last year, I had a laparoscopic surgery, and then I had the adipose PRP, and I had another thing done, and it was just a lot of stress on my body, and so it was just not producing great progesterone levels after all of that stress. So I am taking progesterone now, and I feel feel so much better. Before my luteal phase, I would feel fatigued, just so tired. Recently, like over the last year or so, have gained quite a lot of weight for my frame and for myself, for what I've always weighed throughout my life. I've usually always been on the skinnier side, but I am definitely not at the moment, and that's fine. I'm not like worried about my weight, but it is something that's been caused by, I think, by low progesterone and like all these hormonal fluctuations and all the stress and everything. Hopefully that will sort itself out with the progesterone. If it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. Freya, you're snoring really loud. So I'm sleeping better, my mood is better, my skin is looking better too. That was another thing, I was breaking out really bad in my luteal phase before, and that's clearing up a lot, and I have more energy. I don't feel so tired. I also have less anxiety. I think that that might be a little bit the progesterone as well. And guys, I'm only like on my second cycle of taking progesterone. It's the biggest thing. And also, just so you know, this cycle, right after ovulation, I started to spot. My estrogen levels were great and my progesterone was a 7, so it showed that I ovulated. But I started to spot like immediately after I ovulated, so I started taking the progesterone and it went away. And in a day, it went away. So that's definitely what mine was. So even if you have normal progesterone levels, mine were always, just so you know, so you have a reference, between 7, 9, 10, and 11. And then I did have that one off that was 17. I don't think that I had any spotting that cycle, but those were like, all of those measurements came from cycles where I was spotting, and almost every cycle since the premenstrual spotting started, almost every cycle I have spotted. There's been like 1 or 2 where I haven't. So if you have premenstrual spotting, if it's over 3 days, even if your levels are normal, but they're at the lower end of normal, you may want to talk to your doctor. I tried to ask my OBGYN if she would help me with mine, and she said she didn't know how to do it, so I had to go to my functional medicine doctor. You can always try with your OBGYN first. If not, you can try finding a functional medicine doctor. I will leave a search tool to find one in your area, and they have functional medicine doctors all over the world, not just in the US, so I'll link that below. And then if you have access to a nephro doctor, those are also really great, and they will help you with your progesterone levels. And then there are some OBGYNs that more focus on like hormone replacement, and they're a little bit more open-minded, so hopefully you can find a doctor who can help you with that. But also, and again, this is not medical advice, but if you have premenstrual spotting, you might want to check out like other things that could potentially be causing it, because again, low progesterone is not the only source. But I just wanted to tell you guys this story so that in case you are dealing with something similar, you can get to the bottom of it. And again, I went through a lot of extensive testing for everything else. I checked for fibroids, we checked for infection, we did an endometrial biopsy to make sure there was nothing malignant in my uterus, there were no growths, there was nothing happening in there, making sure that it was in fact coming from my uterus. And there's a lot of other testing that you want to do just to be thorough, just to make sure that you're covering all your bases. Again, go and talk with your doctor, and if you need help finding one, again, at least for functional doctors, I'm linking that below. And that's it for this video, guys. I hope that this was helpful. Next week I will be back with a vlog updating you about my health journey and fertility journey and stuff, so make sure you guys hit subscribe so you don't miss that. I do a lot of structured videos like this, and I share my healing and fertility journey in vlogs. Thank you so much for watching, thank you for being here, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.